by international UN agencies and Bretton Woods institutions who really are not the subjects of international law. Now, let me start with the international law bit, because I hear that the Commission of Rights and Justice, my own good mate, Joe Whittle, has come out and said, he will lead a charge to the courts and all of that. Now, first of all, let me start from this premise. Mr. Joe Whittle, and I'm not being personal, he's my mate and a very good friend of mine. Realize that you're a Commissioner of Human Rights and Administrative Justice for Ghana. What it means is that you are the lawyer when it comes to Ghanaian viewpoint on human rights matters. Your duty as a Commissioner for Human Rights in Ghana is to look for the law as reflects our position as a country, and then articulate that position under the rules of ethics guiding the profession which you and I practice, and to which both of us were called in 1990, and I'm quoting specifically LI 2424, you have a duty as somebody acting to use all your knowledge to prosecute our viewpoint. You're not supposed to, it's as if we're the principal. You cannot, on any ethical viewpoint, using your knowledge to articulate the viewpoint of the defendant. That will be breaking the ethical rules of our profession. 2, you are constitutionally mandated under Article 34.1. Go and read it, because you don't have time. It says that the directive principles of state policy. Please, are you hearing me?
I can hear you clearly.
Great. I am making the point that Mr. Joe Whittle is treading on very dangerous ground.
Okay.
And if he's not careful, and I hear him again threatening Ghanaians that he will take us to court on an issue that 275 MPs have voted for, I will personally petition for his removal. And I'm staking the grounds that I'm going to make. And he better listen to me very well, because I have watched him slowly degenerate into a morass. Now, I have stated the ethical rules on the basis of which he is obliged by his profession to be acting, because he's the Commissioner of Human Rights and Justice for Ghana. He's not a Commissioner for Human Rights and Justice for the United Kingdom, the European Union, or America. And so his duty is to act for us as Ghanaians, not to act as a defendant in the case. 2, Constitution. I'm moving from the statutory ethical standards to the constitutional duties imposed on him. If you look at Article 34.1, it states that all the directive principles of state policy are supposed to be employed by all state institutions, the presidency, the judiciary, the legislature, and all other state institutions, and that it's not only in the formation of law, but also the policy. That's very important, to ensure that there's a just and free society in Ghana. Then go to Article 39.1 and 39.2, that gives specific instances of the directive principle of state policy. It states that our customary law and our customary values and our morals are supposed to be fundamental in the of national policy. And because of this, they are supposed to be part of even our formal and informal educational system. Now, what is our customary law and our customary morals? If you go to Article 11E, 1E, it talks about the fact that the common law of this country shall comprise the English common law, the rules of equity, and the customary law of this country. Go to Article 11.3. It says that the customary law of this country comprises all the rules and regulations of custom that are applicable in all communities or ethnic communities in Ghana. So I'm asking the question. Mr. Joe Whittle comes from the north. I will try and find out where exactly he comes from. He should show me one ethnic group in Ghana that admits of LGBT rights as part of our customary law. So I'm indicating to him that by the virtue of Article 34.1 and 33.9, 39.1 and 2, he's obliged to ensure that the customary values and morals and the customary law of this country, which includes values that are Ghanaian family law driven, that are opposed to LGBT rights, are the ones that he should be articulating. So in articulating a view that is contrary to our customary law and our customary values, he is providing he's acting incompetently, and he's acting contrary to his role as a Commissioner of Human Rights and Administrative Justice. Well, this is just a warning shot. As we say in boxing, I'm started boxing him. You better tell him to be very careful He says he's going to court. Well, we're waiting for him in court. And we are going to do the legal arguments there. If he wants to be an LGBT proponent, well, that is fine. Because the basis and the reasons why the whole slash has become an appendage of LGBT left-wing woke ideological propaganda, which is being pushed by UN agencies. Let me deal with the international law. First of all, I hear a lot of people propagating the false view that LGBT rights are part of international law. That is false, false, false. Let me explain to you how the LGBT movement came by this propaganda strategy of trying to propagate the wrong and false view that LGBT rights are international human law rights. In the 50s and the 60s, as you know, LGBT rights were not very popular in Europe and in America. What did they do? They went and consulted a marketing and advertising consultant called Paul Rondeau. You can Google his name. Rondeau is Rondeaux. Google for his name. Mm-hmm. Paul Rondeau's suggestion to them was, look, what you do, the activities of LGBTQ plus people, what you do, they even now call it community, what you do and the consequences of it are so repellent. So if you project what you do and the consequence of it, nobody's going to accept you. My brother, do you think that putting the penis through the anus, is the anus the orifice for sex? You tell me. If you want to have sex, if you look at the human anatomy, the anus, is that where you put the penis? You tell me. Hello?
I can hear you.
Yes, are you there? So I'm asking you a question. I mean, we are discussing. I'm trying to show you why the LGBT movement have moved away from what they do and the concept of what they do to protecting human, what they call abstract human constructs. Now, if you look at the human body, the gay practice of the so-called orientation, what they do, they have sex through the anus. You tell me, the anus, is it the orifice for sex?
Not as far as I know. Not as far as I know, yes.
Wait, you are sitting in the studio. There's water in front of you. Yeah. Can you imagine if you started pouring the water in your ears or your nose? Can you imagine what will happen? So the human anatomy itself, we all know that the anus is not the orifice. So if somebody says that this is my orientation, I want to put my penis through the anus where feces are, where the CDC, the Center for Disease Control in the United States, has accepted that it is 40% likely to cause HIV/AIDS. All the health and the social science data indicate that this is not even human. How can you say that a woman opening her vagina for another woman to lick the vagina? So some of them, sometimes they haven't even, they have not finished their menses. Can you imagine all of this? How can this be human? And then you tell me that this is a human life. So, knowing or that if you emphasize on what you do and the consequence, nobody's going to listen to you. So focus on what they call abstract social constructs. That is why in any conversation, the LGBT movement will start talking about human rights, civil rights, minority rights, discrimination, and all of that. And that has been proven. Look, there's a UN document, I would read it to you on the next occasion, where the UN, UN Population, is it UN Population Organization? Yes, UN Population Fund. They indicated that when it comes to conservative countries like El Salvador, the strategy will not be to emphasize on sexual rights and other things. They should rather focus on discrimination, because when they talk about discrimination, you and I will always want to support discrimination. That is a strategy that is taken from the LGBT standard playbook, written for them by Paul Kerr, called After the Ball. Go and read that book, and it will show you what the strategy is. That is, move away, don't talk about what we do, focus on human rights and all of that. So I have demonstrated to you that right from the beginning, the LGBT movement is aware that what they're doing has nothing to do with human rights. The only reason why they have brought in human rights is to cover up what they have done. And that's an advertising and campaign strategy. Now, let's deal with the law. Article 38 of the ICJ, that's International Court of Justice statutes, indicate the sources of human rights. And this all has been established in the case involving France and Turkey. It's an ICJ, International Permanent Court of Justice case. I will remember, but it is between France and Turkey. The court held that there are only two sources of international law. Law by convention, that is treaties, and then customary international law, which involves the usages of countries. Good. So there are two main sources of international law: treaties and then customary international law. Let's look at the treaty regime covering international human rights law. There's the United Nations Charter, the UN Declaration of Human Rights, the United Nations Convention on Political and Civil Rights, the UN Convention on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, the United Nations Convention on eliminating all discrimination against women. All of these international treaties that Ghana has signed, my brother, there is not one of them that you will find the phrase sexual orientation. The standard protected classes in all old UN documents are sex, religion, language, and what's the other one? Sex, religion, language, and another one. You will not see sexual orientation. How then did the LGBT right movement read into these international covenants LGBT rights? And I'll give you the history. In 2006, 9 UN rapporteurs and 21 so-called experts, without any mandate from the United Nations, constituted themselves into a committee of experts, and they met in Yogyakarta in Japan and drafted what they call the Yogyakarta Principles, which are a wish list of LGBT propaganda material. Diversity, inclusiveness. So lesbians, gay, bisexuals, and all those are part of international law. Immediately they finished, then I don't have the drafting language, but I will read to you what they said. They then assumed that all that they had put together, which was without the mandate of any United Nations General Assembly, by the way, by the UN Charter, Article 13, go and read Article 52 and 65 as well. It says that the General Assembly is the only outfit for generating new international law. Now, this particular group that met in Yogyakarta, somebody should come and tell me that they had a mandate from the United Nations General Assembly. They did not. So then they began to draft into all UN, reports that they made the assumption that the Yogyakarta Principles were binding on all UN states. That is not true, my brother. Indeed, when we started publishing this bill, it went to Parliament. About 21 UN rapporteurs wrote a report or whatever. It was submitted before Parliament, and I responded legally to it. I will detail that out to you, and so you can see. And I'm going to have a series of lectures exposing all this fraud. So the truth of the matter is, LGBTQ plus rights have never been part of international human law regime. Never. None of the covenants that Ghana has signed have been part, the treaties that we've signed. Do we have LGBT rights explicitly stated there? Now, people say we can read into the UN treaty some provision. I think there's a language that they use. If you look at the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties, it is very clear that state parties that have signed UN treaties are only bound by the treaty obligations that they assume at the time that they sign those UN treaties, not when the interpretation that has been placed on it by some UN experts who have no mandate from the state parties. So we are now dealing with international law. Somebody should come and prove to me that there's any treaty that Ghana has signed. And I'm challenging Mr. Joe Whittle. He should come and show me any of the UN treaties that Ghana has signed that indicates that we have admitted of LGBT rights as part of our international law regime. Now, let's move to the second source of international law. That is UN, as indicated by Article 38 of the ICJ statutes. If you look at customary international law, the law is legion, the Nicaraguan case, the Norwegian case. The law is legion at international law. That for customary international law to be accepted as law, properly so speaking at international law, it must satisfy two conditions. Usus, US, which is a Latin expression for state practice, and two, opinio juris civi necessitatis. Sorry, I'm taking you through a bit of Latin.
No worry, I'm listening carefully.
But it is because I have heard Joe Whittle talk as if, I just laugh, and he's walking on a very tightrope. That is what he doesn't know. We're going to make these arguments in the Supreme Court. Trust me. Now, let me finish. When it comes to state practice, which is uses, it must be practice that the states have done consistently over many years, so that you can read into it a consensus.
Okay.
Brother, the data is there. Go and check. Out of 200 UN countries, only 30 have passed laws in favor of LGBTQ plus rights. So 30 and 170, which is the majority. So how can you tell me that this is indicative of state practice? Indeed, the African countries have constantly shown that they are against LGBT rights. Let me give you this particular example of Ghana. In 2016, when they were going to appoint a UN rapporteur, the UN Human Rights Council, in fact, they always say, oh, Ghana is a member of the UN Human Rights Council. Let's deal with the law concerning the UN Human Rights Council. In 2016, they wanted to appoint an expert in charge of discrimination and violence against LGBTQ plus people. Listen to the voting that took place. There were 30 of them, 23 voted in favor, 18 abstained. If you add that, I think the total number will get 18. That's 51. And there were 6 abstentions. Ghana abstained.
Okay.
The preamble to the abstention indicated that the LGBT, despite the fact that the expert was being appointed, he should not do anything that would be contrary to the following: the sovereignty of other countries, the right of nation states to make their own law, the rights of children. About 5 of them criteria. So the experts' views were subject to these objections.
Okay.
In 2019, when the mandate was being renewed, this time Ghana did not abstain. We actually voted against it. So it was 23 to 19. Now, what better evidence that counters the argument that there is a consistent state practice in support of LGBT rights, even in the UN Human Rights Council? So what is Joe Whittle talking about? Ghana, as a state party to the UN Charter, we have consistently demonstrated that this is against our values. And 98% of African countries have done the same. You go to Asia, it's the same number. Go to Latin America. It is only in Europe where you have this view persisting. So the evidence in support of state practice or uses does not exist as LGBT rights being part of customary international law. Let's go to the next one. That is opinio juris civi necessitatis. And you've got to demonstrate that countries have continually accepted this practice or this so-called customary international law, and also in what they do, they have accepted it as they have consciously accepted that it is a legal obligation. It is a very high legal standard to prove. So in Ghana's case, everything that we have done shows that we're against it. So how can you say that there's opinion juris on this matter?
Okay.
So I don't know what arguments he's going to make in the court. Well, I don't know what international law he's going to learn now that he's commissioner. We are going to meet there, and I have demonstrated to you that it is not true. All of these international institutions, let me deal with the United Nations. At international law, the real parties at international law are state parties. Ghana is a member state of the United Nations. And no UN agency, UNICEF, UNIDO, WHO, can dictate to Ghana as a state party. Indeed, during the course of the week, we're going to petition the Speaker of Parliament to investigate how the United Nations itself has been taken over, and the IMF has been taken over by woke, left-wing LGBT radicals. The United Nations has now become an appendage for pushing Western European ideology on African countries and Asian countries. How can that be part of the international law? How? Are we constituting international law or UN agencies into a new form of colonialism? Are they going to be part of the appendages of neo-colonialism, or what Nkrumah called cultural imperialism? Is that what they're going to be? So I don't get it. Look, as I said, you're going to see a lot of action this week. Okay. We're going to produce the evidence and indicate why SLASH, for example, has become an appendage for, there's a United Nations organization, umbrella organization, that handles all international human rights agencies within various countries. Do you know what they've been doing, my brother? They bring money, they buy tickets, they take them to conferences, and Mr. Joe Whittle, we have all your travel itinerary, you know. We've got all the per diem that you received. We've got all the things that were done in the conferences that you attended, and why you are now speaking for the LGBT movement. So don't joke. Don't dare us. Look, the evidence is clear that over the last 6, 7, 10 years, our Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice have been, over the period, they've been taking them to Geneva conferences and indoctrinating them. By the way, when the time comes for us to give evidence against you, trust me, Mr. Whittle, you'll be shocked by those within your commission who will give evidence against you. We have all the evidence, and we're going to put them together. I am praying that with this information that I've pushed out to you, you will not cross the line. You will not cross the line because you're not representing Ghana at all. And I have demonstrated in this 30 or 15 minutes I've talked to you that it is not true that there's, I heard him quoting some United Nations, some resolutions that Ghana passed or supported, I don't know, the UN or the African, Parliament or whatever it is, Mr. Joe Whittle. And those of you who are lawyers who are listening to me, we know, as a matter of international law, that a ton of UN resolutions will never form the basis of international law, customary international law. Not even a ton of resolutions. And all the resolutions that have been passed have had a lot of stiff opposition from people who are opposed to it. The recent one was the one, I think was it last year, last 2 years, the United States trying to push through a resolution that was against, I think was it against Nicaragua, one of the states that were experiencing coup d'etats. They tried to sneak in a provision about LGBT rights. Go and see the comments that were made under the resolution passed. Go and read the comment, the negative comment that came against the particular provision that was pushing LGBT and transgender activities. Even the European Union, the ACP convention, which they want to, is it the ACP? Yes. And the EU new pact that they want to push. They want to push through LGBT agenda and talk to those members of the Ghanaian parliament who are part of the ECOWAS parliament. They totally rejected it. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So we have consistently indicated our opposition to LGBT rights as being part of the international human rights system. And one basic principle of international law is international human rights law should be universal. If it is not universal and it is opposed, in fact, even the laws, even if we are concerned, even if everybody accepts it, there's a principle called the consensus or consistent objective principle as international law. If you're opposed to it and the whole world accepts it, you're not bound by it. So on what basis are they saying that we are bound by this behavior? In any case, I have demonstrated to you that this behavior is not even human. Look, my brother, after coalition, we've been treating these LGBT people who are struggling with these challenges. Chief, 99% of those who come to us are suffering from HIV/AIDS. Indeed, I remember one occasion, my whole team, they were broken in tears. We help these people. We're solving their problems. Go to the coast, along the coast, Cape Coast, Commander, Elmina, Moray. Children as young as 9 years old, they bring them, they open their anus and they put in the bottle, They try and push it down the anus to see whether the anus is big enough to accept the penis of foreigners who are going to use it. They're like pimps. That's what is happening on our coast. Go to the second cycle institutions. Ola Secondary School recently, the headmistress came to tell us that they are recruiting girls, paying as much as 1,500 Ghana cedis for these girls to recruit lesbians. Go to the communities. Didn't you hear Dr. Lawrence Tucker? We have been to Jamestown. The whole place has been destroyed. So what are they saying? We should sit down for our communities and our societies to be destroyed? Even in the United States, 35 states are now passing laws banning transgenderism. My brother, are you not aware?
I am.
Exactly. So we were saying that even in the United States, it is something which is acceptable. The U.S. ambassador, she can sit here and push LGBT agenda, which is the agenda of her party, the Democratic Party. But we're waiting and we're praying. Let's see what the Lord does on November the 4th. That is why, and listen to me carefully, and you better tell me, that is why in America, despite the fact that their current former President Trump has been charged with 91 counts. Listen to me. Those of you who are 91 criminal counts and civil criminal counts. And yet still 63% of Republican voters think that even if they convict him, he's a proper person to become president. What kind of society is this one? Doesn't she, this American ambassador, doesn't she see that her society is at war with each other culturally? And she's coming to teach us what? What is she coming to teach us? Look, within the next week or so, if they don't lift the ceiling on U.S. debt, the whole U.S. Congress will be closed. Are you aware?
Yes.
Exactly. So what is she coming to teach us? I don't get it, So, look, even in the UK, let me give you more examples. The Tavistock Clinic, you Google for Tavistock Clinic. That was a clinic where children were undergoing surgery to change their sex. A report was instituted and it was closed down because the children were suffering and they were being destroyed. In August last year, you heard what the Prime Minister of Great Britain said. He said, quote, "It is only common sense that a man is a man and a woman is a woman." Please, am I the one who said it? This is the British Prime Minister. So everything that is happening in the world indicates that people are now coming to their senses that this LGBT business, it is a woke ideology, it is not scientifically based, it is contrary to law, and it's rather infringing on the rights of our children. Now, go and look at Article 27 of the UN Convention on the Rights of Children. There's a duty placed on state parties to make sure that the health of their citizens and the children are brought up to be to the right moral and spiritual principles. It's there in black and white. So if we're saying that we want to ensure that there's a spiritual basis for the growth of these children, I hear people say, "Oh, but the Ghana is a secular state." Says who? We are secular only in the sense that there's not one single religion that is dominating. But look at the beginning of our Constitution. It says, "In the name of God." Google or either the Constitution, open it. It says there, "In the name of God." What kind of God are we talking about, Madame Audrey Gajepo? What kind of God are we talking about? So, well, if you don't believe in God, that's fine. If you're an atheist, that's okay. But Ghana is never an atheistic country. We are a religious country, and Article 26 enjoins us to practice the religions and the faiths that we have. Indeed, it is the faith that has pushed us. And our Constitution begins in the name of God. And there is a God in heaven. So if we're building our people along moral lines, there's nothing wrong with it. In any case, and I often laugh at them, you don't even know the history of human rights law. The first people who wrote about human rights were Christians. St. Aquinas was a Catholic priest. And St. Francis, Plato, all these people who were very fundamental to the foundation of natural law, because the basic process of natural law, which is the mother of human rights law, is that there is a law that is higher than human law. All right? That is how human rights law was generated. So human rights law itself is based in Judeo-Christian moral principles. So to tell me that, oh, this is not morality, I beg you, then you don't even know what you're talking about. So, my brother, at the bottom line, what we're saying is that the bill that we have passed meets all international standards. And by the way, do you know that in the bill it is stated that if you verbally or physically assault an LGBT person, you're committing an offense? Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Yeah, but have you heard the CNN and the BBC? Have you heard them talking about that one? No, you wouldn't hear it. Because it doesn't suit their propaganda. You know, we were very clever when we were drafting the bill. All right? We made sure that we understood the LGBT community and their strategy. And we therefore positioned the bill in such a way that it was going to run counter to their strategy. It is in the black. So how can you say the bill is against the fundamental rights of LGBT? When the law says that if you hit an LGBT or you have committed an offense, so on what basis are you making this statement? They haven't even read the law. All right? And for my good friend Afenyo Markin, who keeps on saying, oh, he wants community service. If they go to prison, they will engage. Oh, Mr. Afenyo Markin, my brother. If the prison conditions in Nsawam prisons or other prisons are such that the prisoners are bunched together and they engage in anal sex, my brother, is this the reason for saying that people should not be in prison? Is it not a function of the mismanagement of the prison system? I don't know whether he knows, and he probably has traveled abroad. In most advanced countries, and in countries where the prison system is properly managed, sexual offenders are always kept away, or people engage in offenses that are sexual oriented. They don't get hooked with everybody else. Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
That is what happens in most countries. So you want to improve the prison system rather than saying that because of that, people should be in prison. By the way, if you look at the policy that was behind this law, my brother, trust me, we made a distinction between those who've got into the LGBT practice because of peer pressure, because of hormonal imbalance, because of social circumstances, because of economic circumstances. They get involved in male prostitution because the monetary gains are huge. You know, we said that if you get caught during investigation, during trial, during sentencing, even when you are in prison, if you show remorse and you need help, then you'll be offered the necessary help. You're not going to go to prison. That was the plank, a major plank on which we built this law. It was taken out because the Attorney General raised an objection that it was going to involve a cost or a charge on the consolidated fund. Go and read the Attorney General's comment. We didn't write it. So what those who were pushing the bill in Parliament did was, okay, they removed the provision and said that the minister could make regulations on health and what's it called, care, treatment, and support. When the clear language of the provision was that the cost of the health, treatment, and support will be borne by the person himself or a service provider. That is the drafting language. How was this imposing a cost on the nation? Indeed, the Christian Council of Ghana, and I've got a copy of this letter, we're going to hold a press conference, and we're going to put all of that out. The Christian Council actually wrote a letter to the Speaker undertaking that it will cater for underwrite the cost of anybody who wanted care, treatment, and support. That was the basis upon which the Speaker was going to exercise his discretion under Article 108 of the Constitution. Mr. Foh Amoaning, are you not aware of all of these things? So why do you go around making it seem as if the aim of the law was to jail people and put people in prison? Look, as I have indicated, the coalition, we've already over the last 4 years been catering for people. We spend lots of money. For so it's LGBT. Bring your money. Put your money where your mouth is. The people are suffering. They need care, and what they don't need is propaganda. They don't need all that propaganda coming from you.
On the bit of imprisonment, this is Most Reverend Kwesi Jemfi of the Cali Bishops Conference who says this, quote, "We think that in the case of this particular law and the way it is being implemented, being placed in prison as a punishment that they have chosen, it is not going to solve the problem. Because, you see, if you round up same-sex people and you know our prisons, they are going to end up in the same room. And what is going to prevent them from going through these activities in prison? And you are not going to put them there forever, because they are going to be there for 3 months to 6 months. And they practice this and come out as more experts at it than when you sent them there. They release them back in society. So what is going to happen? That's why we are concerned about a punishment that will correct them, that will reform them. So if the government is going this way, or if Parliament is going this way, that is why we are suggesting that in the prison, they should add more of the corrective and reformative measures. What do you say to that?
Well, Archbishop Jemfi, thankfully the Cali Bishop Conference is a part of the coalition. He is very good because the previous president of Miami, to be honest, he probably doesn't have enough information, because what he's saying, that's exactly what the coalition has been doing over the last 4 years, which I've told you. And the Catholic Church has been supporting us. Indeed, he knows the last time he came for the meeting, we wrote a letter asking him, because the holistic sexual therapy system that we have, one of the most exciting things about it is that we have an aftercare family system where we need houses where we can host these people who we are trying to pull out of this difficulty. Okay. And we asked the Catholic Church to donate facilities to us. He's aware, the letter is on his table. So we're already doing it, you know. And the point of the matter is that, as I've indicated, if there's a prison problem in the prison, it is a problem of the management of the prison system. So you cannot say that, because people, when they get, which is all prisoners who get involved in trauma. It's not true, you know. And as I've indicated, normally in a proper prison environment, you separate those involved in sexual offences from those. So what he's suggesting, we're already doing too. The government, in respect of the process of if people even get jailed, because as I've told you, our original plan was that during investigation trial, you're not going to go to prison. If you show remorse, then you'll be pushed away from there. that has been taken out. And as I said, regulations will be passed in respect of flexible sentencing policy and then care, treatment, and support. But he's suggesting that in prison, they should be provided with a system that guides them away. We're already practicing it, and in collaboration with the prison. In fact, we have a prisons ministry already. And so what he's saying, we're already doing. So it's a matter of expanding into the prison, and we're prepared to do it. So also rest assured, probably he doesn't know. But we are already doing this, and it is costing nothing to those who come to us. So he's fine in the way he's projecting it, but I don't like the fact that he's being drawn into LGBT propaganda by Foh Amoaning into stating that when people go to prison, necessarily they're all going to be turned out to be bad. Because Foh Amoaning is suggesting that rather than put them in prison, you should give them community service. My brother, the homosexual behavior that they were engaged in, were they not engaging it in their community? So if you give them community service, are you not placing them in the very environment that they engage in the trouble? Is that not the case? Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. They engaged in the homosexual activity within their communities. What is the meaning of community service? He's going to maybe clean a hospital or clean. Can't he engage in a building over there? So what is Foh Amoaning talking about? I think the best measure is what the coalition has done. We have a holistic sexual therapy system. Let's provide care, treatment, and support and help for those who really need it. Those who are supposed to be punished are those who say we love it, we like it, who want to promote it, who want to push the idea. And by the way, let me deal with this issue of freedom of speech and editorial thing that I hear all day pushing all over the place. My brother, as you sit there as Radio Gold, can you begin to propagate or push or promote prostitution on your station? Can you do that?
Not at all.
Why can't you do it?
Because there's a law against it.
Exactly. You can't also push the whole idea of a man having another sex with another man, or you cannot put bestiality, which is part of Article Section 104 of our law. Or neither can you push. There are these secessionists in the north, is it Togo? They call themselves Northern Togoland or whatever. These secessionists who have been. Can you push the agenda on the station?
No.
Of course not. You can't. What I want to insinuate, or what I'm trying to allude to, is that when certain activities have been defined as criminal, your speech or your freedom of speech is subject to those things that have been criminalized. And that is reinforced by Article 12.2 of the Constitution. It says that all the fundamental human rights are subject to the rights of others and to the rights of the general public interest. And Article 285 defines public interest as interest that will inure to the generality of Ghanaians. So, if your freedom of speech ends where the public order, public morality, and public decency begins. So, if what you're doing is criminal, you can't promote it, either on radio or television or anywhere. Now, do you know why the LGBT movement are keen on protecting their right to broadcast material that is not good? Because, as I've told you, the whole LGBT agenda is about using advertising, radio, television, social media to push the agenda. And that is a way of changing the minds of people and sanitizing their minds in respect of something which is abnormal. They will make it look normal. When you watch television constantly, and the data is there, when you watch television constantly and you see a man kissing another man, initially it's a shock. But you watch it over and over and over again, you think that, oh, this is normal. So they are desensitizing you. That's why they're keen on protecting the media. That's the whole idea. And for us, that is why we're locking it up. Look, check the record. The Russians are passing law blocking advocacy and in respect of LGBT rights in Russia. Same with Hungary and Poland. Go to the United States. A lot of states are trying to pass law to block all these things. Because if you allow people to propagate these things on air and on radio, you are desensitizing them. My own little daughter, Mamisi, as you keep on saying, I'm one of the big advocates. My little daughter, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I asked the mommy, what do you think of this? So, but daddy, my friends say it's normal. Really? And the reason why my little daughter was saying this was because the friends have been watching and listening. And what they see is normal. I couldn't believe my sister Eunice or Josephine or Jacina saying this to my dad. It would have been unheard of 20, 30 years ago. But now, Then she was 12 years. My niece is now 14, getting to 15 years this year. Now she knows what is right because I have educated her. All right. So if you look at what is happening around the media landscape, if we don't address that, very soon you will see that our children, we don't like it, but our children are going to grow to love it. In fact, let me tell you this. That's why they were trying to introduce comprehensive sexuality education. That is the whole idea. It is an educational process of re-educating our people to accept as normal something which is abnormal.
I see. Now, let me conclude by, two things. First of all, this is Gabi Ochridakwa. I know you've heard about this tweet.
No, he supports it. Well, he supports it.
Yeah, he says, but Ghanaians must also understand that it comes with consequences. Choices have consequences. We expect the media and politicians to be fair to the people by letting them know the pros and cons of this decision to impose stiffer penalties against gays, etc. And then there's also the U.S. Embassy. Legislation that threatens all Ghanaian civil rights also threatens Ghana's economic recovery. As international businesses have already made clear, it will deter critically needed foreign investment across all industries, including tourism. In fact, you started on that note by talking about the threats that are coming from superpowers that will suffer economically.
It is people like Gabi Ochridakwa, they are the ones pushing this agenda. Now, listen to what he said. Read it again. He's saying what? There are consequences. What kind of consequences? You know, is it not tragic? His cousin, I think the president is a cousin.
Yes.
When the president was coming into power, what was his mantra? Ghana beyond aid. Is that not the case?
Yes.
Is it not tragic that now he's saying that if we don't get involved in anal sex and women licking the vagina of others, then we're not going to get aid. Really, Mr. Gabi Ochridakwa? Does it run counter to everything that the president has stood for? Where is all the brilliant articulation about Ghana beyond aid and making sure that this country is so self-reliant? Don't you remember? One of the most abiding memories was he standing beside Macron and arguing that we in Africa, we have so much wealth, we should be giving them aid. Is that not what the president said? You remember?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure you have the voice.
I do.
So where is all of that gone? Where's all that advocacy, all that brilliant and eloquence? Where's all of that gone to say that there will be consequences? What kind of consequences? Look, we have gone to the IMF 17 times. Maybe, just maybe, it is because of the curse of LGBT money that we are suffering the way we are suffering. So maybe we don't need that money. Maybe. We probably don't need that money. In any case, I don't even believe that IMF conditionalities involve LGBT rights. The IMF itself is a Bretton Woods institution. It is established by international. We are all members. Ghana is a member of the IMF. The IMF board and the monies that come in, we don't say these are LGBT monies and therefore. No, I'm sorry. So on what basis is he saying what he's saying? In any case, these are loans. My brother, are they gifts? Do they give it to us as a gift? Is it a freebie?
No.
So if we're going to pay for the loans, why is Mr. Gabi Ochridakwa arguing that what is the meaning of this? Maybe he's part of the problem because he's the one whose behavior and whose attitude and comments gives the impression that the president will not sign. Well, recently I heard him say that they should go to court. That's fine because, Gabi, that's where people who want to argue cases go to. So this picture that he's creating, and he always says, and it's not only him, there are a few other people. Kanoflata was also interviewed, he was very equivocating about the matter. All this gives the impression that it's as if the presidency accepts this behavior. I don't think so, because I know the president. I don't think he's for such behavior. But are there pressures on him? Yes, of course there are pressures. But that's why he's president. And if you look at our constitution, he's the head of state, the head of the government, and also the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. As head of state, he represents our values. Now, look at Article 1 of the Constitution. It says that sovereignty resides in the people of Ghana, and all the powers of state are supposed to be exercised on their behalf, that is the people of Ghana, and it is supposed to be for their well-being. In law, when we say that you are acting for on behalf of another, you have been constituted into a trustee, or an agent. We are the beneficiaries. The president is only our trustee. We vote for him and we give him our authority. We delegate the power we have to him. Now, when you have a law where 275 MPs, all of them voted in favor, please, Play the song bite. When the speaker said, all those in favor say aye, you heard everybody say aye. Did you hear any nay?
No.
Good. So how can you say, in respect of legislation, which I think should have been pushed by the president, fine, it's a private member's bill, for a president who came to power on the wings of the battle as the Lords, I would have wished that he would have pushed this particular legislation. Well, he didn't do so. Rather, what they have pushed is a weed legislation. That's fine. Cannabis, make it legal. That one, even when the Supreme Court threw it out, they brought it back again. But they didn't see it good to push and make sure that the Attorney General pushes this bill. Well, that's fine. Let's push that aside. Then you're telling me that when 275 MPs who represent all of us in Ghana have indicated their support for it, the president is going to say he's not going to sign? Really? No, I don't think so. The president is too clever. He's too brilliant a politician. And in this an election year, I don't think he's going to do that. Because you see, if he does, and I'm putting it in boxing language, it will be in the election fight between Dr. Bawumia and former President John Mahama, it will be a TKO for the NDC and John Mahama. TKO means technical knockout. That's it. It's over. It will be a no contest. If the president refuses to sign, the impression that will be given is that the NPP supports LGBT activities, which will be sad, because when they went to Afrin North, you saw what happened. And the NPP as a party came out openly and said, no, we don't support it. And if you look at their tradition, they are a conservative right of center government. So they rather should have been pushing an agenda supporting this bill. Unfortunately, and the NDC, I must be honest, has been very strategic. They are the ones who are pushing this agenda. On the 31st of January, did you hear former President Mahama?
Yes.
He made a declaration that he supports what we are doing. That is brilliant political strategy. All right? So I'm just indicating to you, I don't think the president would do it, because I know him. He's a good friend. I think he's a very smart politician. But it will be the eighth wonder of the world if he refuses to sign this bill and he expects that Dr. Bawumia is going to win any elections in Ghana. That would be very, very tragic. And as I said, it will be a TKO. And in boxing, we also say it will be a no contest. It will be over. The game will be over for the NPP. And I don't think they will allow him to do that. I really don't think so.
Thank you very much for speaking to us this morning.
Thank you very much, too. I've given you a lot of headlines.
Yes, you did. Thank you. And thank you very much. Lamos is Foh Amoaning, is Executive Secretary, National Coalition for Proper Human Sexual Rights. Join us on the line.
Executive Secretary.
Yes.
National Coalition for Proper Human Sexual Rights.
The coalition you belong to.
Igbo.
Yeah.